Welcome to my TLC Lastest Update channel.
It didn't go down in court. It wasn't a screaming match either. And it didn't happen in some big dramatic scene. It just faded. So quietly that even the people in the family didn't catch it at first. For years, the Browns lived in the spotlight. Millions watched Kody Brown with his big family. 4 wives, tons of kids, huge houses, big smiles, and even bigger promises. To everyone else, they seemed like proof that plural marriage could actually work. On TV, they showed unity, faith, and togetherness. But behind the scenes, things were breaking down. And the worst part, nobody talked about it. Silence replaced talking. Distance replaced closeness. And love turned into something they had to do. Kody Brown didn't just wake up one day and lose his family. He lost them bit by bit. Missed talks, ignored feelings, broken promises. Things that didn't seem that bad on TV, but were awful in real life. Back then, Kody sounded so sure of himself. He talked about being the leader, being responsible, and how great it was to share a family. He thought having multiple wives made him strong. But being a leader isn't about being loud, and being strong isn't about being obeyed. The bigger the family got, the more emotional baggage each wife carried. Instead of sharing the load, it became uneven. Some got to speak up. Others were just tolerated, and some were ignored. That's where the silence started. Meri, the first wife, held all the history, the memories, the sacrifices that no one saw. She was the base of the family, believing that being loyal would get her love in return. But after a while, her loyalty went unseen. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't demanding anything. She was waiting. Waiting for love that never came back. Waiting to be noticed, but it never happened. Waiting in a marriage that was just a memory. But she stayed. Not because she was weak, but because she thought promises meant something. Christine was the emotional heart of the family. She created the warmth, the laughter, and the comfort. She held everything together emotionally. But being the emotional glue is draining, especially when no one sees the cracks. She didn't want things to be perfect. She wanted to be a partner. She wanted to feel like she was wanted, not just sometimes. Instead, she felt like an afterthought. And when love feels like a favor instead of something real, you start to shut down. Janelle was always practical, strong, logical. She believed in teamwork, in being fair, in helping out. But even being practical has its limit. When your work isn't appreciated, when being independent is mistaken for being cold, when your strength is just expected, even the strongest people start wondering why they're sticking around. And then there was Robin. When she arrived, things changed. It was small at first. Then it was obvious. Then it was impossible to ignore. Everything changed. Energy changed. What used to feel even started to feel unfair. Instead of talking about it, Kody did something worse. He pretended it wasn't happening. He told the family things were fine. He told the TV audience things were fine. But feelings don't just disappear when you ignore them. They get bigger. They get harder. They wait. This is when the silence gets bad. When people stop fighting, it doesn't mean things are okay. It often means they've given up. Talks got shorter. Visits got less frequent. Eye contact was rare. The family was still together, but emotionally, they were miles apart. Kody thought being in charge would keep everything together. But families don't stay together because someone's in charge. They stay together because they care about each other. And to really care, you have to listen, something Kody was forgetting how to do. Rolling. Viewers saw smiles, group meetings, family talks. But they didn't see the talks that never happened. The apologies that were never said. The feelings that were never understood. The loneliness that got worse, even when they were all together. Kody talked about respect a lot. But demanding respect without caring how people feel just turns into control. And control kills love. The saddest part, nobody wanted the family to break up. Not Meri, not Christine, not Janelle. They didn't wake up wanting to leave. They woke up worn out. Worn out from explaining. Worn out from waiting. Worn out from feeling like their feelings didn't matter. And little by little, without making a scene, They started to pull away emotionally. That's when the family really started to fall apart. Not when someone left, but when someone just gave up. Kody didn't see it at first. Why would he? Everything looked the same. Was still called husband. The TV show was still on, but the heart of the family, the real part, was already fading away. Families don't fall apart because of one mistake. They fall apart from 1,000 times of not caring. Before the problems, the distance, the silence, there was a dream. Kody Brown really believed in it. He didn't just want a family. He wanted something that would last. He wanted to show that plural marriage could work with faith, fairness, and commitment. To him, it wasn't a mess. It was organized. It had a reason. And at first, it seemed possible. The Brown family started out full of hope. Not a showy kind, but a quiet, determined kind. Like, this will be tough, but worth it. Meri was there when the dream was just starting. No cameras, no fame, no outside approval. She believed in him when it meant giving up a lot. She didn't just marry a guy. She married an idea. That's important because when you give your life to a dream, losing it hurts more than losing a person. Then Janelle came along. She kept things steady when emotions were all over the place. She thought structure, teamwork, and sharing responsibilities were important. She didn't need to be told she was okay all the time. She needed respect and fairness. For a while, she felt like things were working. Everyone had a job. Everyone helped out. Everyone was important. Christine was next with a warm heart. She wasn't just another wife. She was the emotional center. She made traditions, celebrations, and a comfortable home. Together, they weren't perfect, but they felt complete. And Kody? He loved being in the middle of it all. He felt important, needed, and respected. The dream was alive. Then Robin joined the family, and things started to change without anyone noticing at first. At first, Robin seemed like a good thing, a fresh start, another chance to prove the system could grow. Kody said love would grow, not shrink. But love doesn't just grow on its own. It needs balance. And balance is easily broken. With Robin, Kody was nicer than he'd been with the others. He listened more. He put her first. It wasn't just about time. It was about paying attention. And attention is important in any relationship. Slowly, the other wives noticed things. He spent more time with Robin. He was gentler with her. He was willing to compromise when he hadn't been before. At first, they thought they were imagining it. No one wanted to be jealous or seem insecure or be called difficult, so they kept it to themselves. And that's how the dream started to fall apart. Not obviously, but inside. Kody said nothing had changed. But families don't fall apart because things change. They fall apart when people pretend things haven't changed. Instead of admitting things were different, Kody became more bossy. He reminded everyone of the rules, the structure, and the sacrifices they had to make. But you can't manage love like a system, and emotions don't follow rules. Meri felt it first. She saw the emotional closeness disappear. Conversations became polite instead of personal. They were together physically, but not emotionally. She was still part of the family, but didn't feel special anymore. And when you're the one who started the family, being replaced emotionally feels like you're being erased. Christine felt it deeply. She had given her heart to building something bigger than herself. She had put energy into children who weren't hers. She had thought love meant sharing. But sharing only works when everyone feels valued. She started asking questions, not to challenge his authority, but to show her pain. And that's when things got bad. Her feelings were ignored, not argued with, not debated, just ignored. Janelle noticed the imbalance too, but she tried to make sense of it. She thought if she stayed calm, logical, and strong, things would get better. But systems don't fix themselves, people do. And Kody wasn't fixing anything. He was defending it. The dream that once brought them together now became something they were afraid to question. Because questioning the dream meant questioning everything they had given up. Years, youth, who they were. And that's scary. Kody talked a lot about respect, but respect without feeling safe emotionally feels like fear. The wives didn't feel like they could talk honestly anymore. They were careful. Careful with their words, their tone, careful not to upset things, because things already felt broken. This wasn't the dream they signed up for. But leaving felt impossible, because when your life is built around a shared idea, leaving feels like destroying your own past. And here's what the cameras didn't show clearly. The wives weren't fighting over Kody. They were fighting to matter, to be heard, to be considered, to feel equal. And equality was slipping away. Kody, meanwhile, felt misunderstood. He thought he was doing his best. That being a leader meant being firm. That questioning him meant hurting the family. But leading without thinking becomes blindness. He didn't see how the dream had changed, from shared love to an emotional pecking order. And by the time he felt resistance, he thought it was rebellion, not heartbreak. The dream that once felt like it was protecting them now felt like pressure. Smiles became fake, family meetings became tense, and silence became a way to survive. And still no one left, because they were all still holding on to the memory of what the dream used to be. The laughter, the closeness, the belief. But memories can't fix reality. This was the moment where everything could have changed. If they had listened instead of defended, if they'd shown understanding instead of being bossy, if they'd shown love instead of trying to control. But they didn't. And that's why this part is important. Because the Brown family didn't fall apart. Because of anger. It started with a dream that wouldn't change. When the dream started to fall apart, the fighting had stopped. And that was the worst thing. Because arguing means people still care. When it's quiet, it means they've given up. That's when love in the Brown family stopped feeling safe and started to feel like it came with strings attached. Kody Brown didn't see it right away. He thought he was still the same guy, still in charge, still the main focus, still doing what he thought was best for everyone. But the family around him was changing, not because they wanted to, because they had to. Christine noticed it first, and it hit her the hardest. For years she'd been the rock for the family. She was the one who comforted everyone, who cheered them on, who made sure everyone felt included. She thought love meant giving everything she had. She believed if she gave enough, things would eventually even out. But after a while, she realized something awful. People just expected her to give, and they didn't appreciate it. She saw Kody being patient and kind to some, and being annoyed and distant to others. She saw him putting in effort in only one direction. And slowly, quietly, she started to feel like she was begging for scraps of love. That changes a person. Not into anger, but into being totally worn out. Christine tried to speak up, not to start a fight, not to point fingers, but to explain how she felt. And that's when things got even worse. Instead of being heard, she felt like she was being told she was wrong. Instead of being comforted, she felt like she was being blamed. Instead of being understood, she felt like she was being called difficult. When someone opens up and gets shut down, they don't do it again. They protect themselves. Meri's pain was quieter, but it weighed her down more. She lived in the past, back when she mattered, back when love felt real, back when she had a real marriage. But memories can't hug you. Memories can't make you feel loved today. She stayed true to a version of Kody that didn't exist anymore. And every day she stayed, she felt like she was disappearing. Imagine sitting in a room where you should belong, but no one even looks at you. That was Meri's life. Janelle kept it together with logic. She thought she could control her feelings, that being independent was a good thing, that if she didn't ask for too much, things would stay calm. But even strong people have limits. She saw how decisions were being made differently. How respect started to go only one way, how being partners turned into being told what to do. And she realized something awful. Her strength had become an excuse for people to ignore her. Meanwhile, Kody felt like he was being attacked. He didn't see pain. He saw people fighting back. He didn't hear feelings. He heard people not listening to him. And that's when everything fell apart. Because love can't last when feelings are seen as threats. He tried to control things even more. He made more rules. He acted like the boss. But being the boss doesn't fix hurt feelings. It makes them worse. Family meetings became awkward. Not because people were yelling, but because of what they weren't saying. Carefully, they hid their feelings. They softened the truth to avoid problems. And when people aren't honest, they lose touch with each other. The wives weren't united anymore. Not against Kody, but even with each other. Each one felt alone in her pain, and feeling lonely in a marriage is way worse than being angry. Then they all realized something they didn't want to admit. They weren't trying to save their love anymore. They were trying to feel like they mattered. Like their time was worth something. Like their feelings were worth something. Like they were worth thinking about. That's not a marriage. That's just trying to survive. Kody talked about respect a lot. But demanding respect without being caring just feels like being scared. The wives started watching every word, every reaction, every look. Not because they wanted things to be peaceful, but because they wanted to avoid getting punished. And punishment isn't always yelling. Sometimes it's being ignored, being treated coldly, being shut out. And being shut out hurts way more than being yelled at. Christine reached her breaking point not when she was mad, but when she had a clear head. She realized she had spent years saying why she deserved love. And if you have to explain why you deserve love, it's already gone. She wasn't mad. She was awake. She saw that staying meant teaching her kids that this was okay, and she wasn't going to do that. Meri faced a different truth. She had stayed loyal long after the love was gone, and being loyal without being close to someone just makes you lonely. She started asking herself questions she had avoided for years. Who am I without this marriage? Why am I still here? What am I holding on to? And the answers scared her. Admitted what she had been ignoring. That being independent doesn't replace being close to someone. That being practical doesn't fix being ignored. That being strong doesn't mean you have to be silent. She realized she had been giving up her own needs to make everyone else happy. And that realization hurt. Kody felt the distance growing, but instead of trying to get closer, he pulled away. He thought respect should come first, and love would follow. But love doesn't follow orders. It follows being cared for. And no one was being cared for. The worst part? No one wanted to ruin the family. They wanted to save it. But saving something means changing. And Kody didn't want to change. He wanted people to do what he said. That's when love turned into a test. Who would stay quiet? Who would do what they were told? Who would settle for less and still smile? Wives failed that test. Not because they were being disloyal, but because they were human. They wanted to feel loved without having to meet certain conditions. By the end of this situation, the Brown family was still together on paper. But emotionally, they were already gone. And when people leave emotionally, it's only a matter of time before they leave for real. Because love can't last when people don't feel like they're worth anything. And once someone realizes they are worthy, in any broken relationship, there's that moment when hope just quietly slips out the door. No big fight, no yelling, just a quiet knowing. For the Brown family, it wasn't one big thing, but a bunch of little things. Distance, being tired all the time, and the slow realization that things just weren't going back to the way they were. The cracks? You couldn't miss them. Christine saw it first, not because she was weak, but because she'd been strong for way too long. She looked at her life, and it hit her hard. She'd spent years asking for the basics: time, love, being there, and still felt like she was asking too much. She wasn't mad anymore, just done hoping. And that's when she saw things clearly. Christine knew that staying wasn't love anymore. It was hurting herself. She didn't want to get back at Kody or cause drama. She just wanted some peace. And this marriage just couldn't give her that. When Christine finally said she was leaving, everyone was shocked. Not because they didn't know things were bad, but because she was always the one who stuck it out. The one who tried the hardest. The glue that held everything together. The one who still believed. Her leaving wasn't a scene. It was quiet. and that quiet was huge. It meant she wasn't going to try to fix things anymore. She'd already mourned the marriage while she was still in it. Kody didn't take it well. Not because he was head over heels in love, but because he felt like he was being told what to do. Christine leaving wasn't just losing her. It was losing control. For the first time, a wife wasn't asking if she could be happy. She was just doing it. And that destroyed the idea that he could just tell everyone what to do, and the family would stay together. Christine leaving changed everything. It helped others see what they'd been hiding. It showed them that leaving was a thing you could do. Janelle was watching closely. She was always practical, did her own thing, and was steady. She didn't need someone telling her she was great all the time, but she needed respect. And then she realized something that stung. Her being loyal was taken for being quiet. Her being strong was taken for being okay with everything. She'd been easygoing. Tried to understand. But being easygoing when it's only one way is just being used. Janelle started to see that working things out only works if both people give a little. And she was the only one giving. Things got tense and their talks got cold. Kody talked about loyalty. Janelle talked about what was fair. They weren't even on the same page anymore. What used to feel like a team now felt like she was trying to work something out with no end. And Janelle had her own quiet realization. She was all alone, even though she was married. Meri's breaking point was different. She didn't make some big scene. She just slowly accepted things. She'd already been living without love for years. Her marriage was just a name. No love, no closeness, no plans for the future. Just the past. And the past isn't enough to live on. Meri finally stopped pretending. Waiting. Stopped hoping Kody would go back to who he used to be. And that acceptance, more than getting mad, set her free. Meanwhile, Kody felt like he was losing everything. But instead of thinking about why, he got defensive. He talked about how they were betraying him, being disrespectful, not listening. He blamed the wives for giving up, but he never asked why they were so tired, because asking why would mean he'd have to take some blame, and no one likes that. Family meetings were awful. Not because people were yelling, but because they were so distant. No one felt like they could be honest anymore. The truth had a price, and you could only be honest if people cared about how you felt, and no one did. Robin watched all of this happen, and for once, she didn't look like she'd won, because being the favorite doesn't feel so great when everyone else is gone. She was stuck in a relationship where there was a lot of anger, sadness, and feeling alone. That's a heavy place to be. Kody thought the family broke apart because people quit trying, but it was worse than that. They quit trying because they'd been trying by themselves. Love where only one person puts in. The effort is just too much. And that kind of thing always falls apart. What hurt the most wasn't the breaking up. It was knowing that the family had been falling apart for years, and no one really cared enough to listen. The wives didn't leave out of nowhere. They left after being ignored for too long. Christine walked away feeling lighter. Not because it was easy, but because she had to. She chose to respect herself, instead of just dealing with it. Janelle stepped back, not wanting to give up herself, to keep things steady. Meri stepped away emotionally, and got back to being herself. And Kody? Kody had to deal with the results of not caring about how others felt, something he never thought was real. The family that used to be all about being together now showed something painful. You can't keep people together with rules when there's no love. You can't demand loyalty, but not care about them. And you can't lead a family you don't even try to understand. This wasn't the end of the Brown family story, but it was the end of make-believe. The make-believe that time fixes things if you ignore them. The make-believe that telling people what to do is the same as caring. The make-believe that being quiet means everything's okay. Because being quiet just means people are getting ready to leave. And by the time they do, it's already done. When the dust settled, the noise stopped. No more family get-togethers. No more fake smiles. No more pretending that love was still alive when it had actually died. Silence was left, but it felt different this time. This silence wasn't denial. It was the real deal. The Brown family, once glued together by belief, habit, and what they hoped for, now stood apart, each dealing with their own take on the same story. A story of love. Story of loss. A story of what happens when people are asked to take way too much than they should. Kody Brown was there in the middle of it all. He had always thought being a leader meant people would just follow, that being in control made things right, that if anyone questioned him, it weakened the family. Now, without the voices that used to be all around him, he was faced with something new. Not the kind forced by critics or cameras, but the kind that hits you when the house is too quiet and there's no one else to blame. Kody had to face the fact that love doesn't just die because people aren't faithful. It dies because people aren't heard. And that hits harder than getting angry. Christine's life, on the other hand, started to feel easier. Not because her past didn't matter, but because it wasn't running her life anymore. She didn't leave hating anyone. She left knowing what's what. She got back the happiness that had been put off for years. Happiness she'd been told to wait for. By choosing herself, she showed something big, not just to her kids, but to everyone watching. That love should never make you feel you have to get smaller. That being quiet to keep things calm just shows others how much they can take from you. That walking away is sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself. Janelle got strong by being real. She didn't change what had happened. She didn't say the good times didn't exist. But she stopped making excuses for giving everything and getting nothing back. She learned that being on your own doesn't mean you have to be lonely, and that being with someone should feel like they've got your back, not like you owe them something. She did things quietly. She was stable. And sometimes, that's how you heal the best. Meri's change was more low-key, but just as important. She had been stuck in the middle for years, staying loyal to a marriage that wasn't really there for her anymore. Letting go wasn't a big deal. It had to happen. She learned that holding on to the past doesn't respect it. It just keeps it stuck. By dropping the idea that she was the first wife, she finally made room to find out who she was outside of that role she had been just dealing with. And Robin? Robin was left dealing with a tough situation. Being the favorite didn't feel so great. Because love surrounded by loss isn't a party. It's being lonely. She watched the family get smaller while everyone kept watching. Even though her situation was different, she still hurt. Because no one really wins when a family falls apart. The Brown family story isn't about bad guys and good guys. It's about people. People who tried. People who messed up. People who stayed way too long. And others who left too late. It's about how being well-meaning doesn't always save you from the results. And how love, real love, can't make it without caring for others. This story means way more than just one family or one show. It speaks to anyone who has ever felt unseen in a relationship. Anyone who has been quiet to keep things calm. Anyone who has said they hurt, only to be told they were too sensitive. Anyone who has thought putting up with things meant they were loyal. It reminds us that love should feel safe. Talking should feel like it goes both ways. And being a leader should feel like they're helping you, not keeping you down. Families don't break because people change. They break because they don't want to change. Because they stop listening. Because they're too proud. Because they treat emotional needs like their weaknesses. And once someone knows what they're worth, they can't accept being unseen anymore. Filming. The shows might end. But what happened will stick around. Because it's like real life. Real marriages. Real heartbreaks. Real wake-up calls. That's why the Brown family story hits so hard. It reminds us that no matter how public or private our lives are, we all want the same thing. To be loved without strings attached. To be heard without being scared. To be valued without having to beg. The Brown family didn't fail because they didn't love each other. They failed because they didn't protect that love. And protecting love means being humble. Being brave enough to listen, to change, and to admit when you're wrong. This isn't a story about a family falling apart. It's a story about the truth coming out. About women choosing to be treated with respect instead of just putting up with things. About a man learning, maybe too late, that being in control without caring leaves nothing behind. About how much strength it takes to walk away from something you thought would last forever. Because sometimes, a family ending isn't the worst thing. It's something you can learn from. And sometimes, losing what you thought you needed is how you finally find yourself.